dictators to prophets. Fear's role in power systems. They didn't need guns to control the masses. They needed fear. And once fear took root, obedience followed like a shadow. Since the dawn of civilization, those who seek power have found fear to be the most efficient tool of control. It's cheap, it's fast, and it bypasses logic. Fear doesn't ask questions, it reacts. When people are afraid, they don't think critically. They look for safety. And those who promise that safety, no matter how brutal their methods, are often accepted as saviors. From pharaohs claiming divine wrath to justify slavery, to kings warning of demons outside the kingdom's walls, to modern leaders using terror alerts to justify surveillance. Fear has always been the lever that moves societies. But how does this mechanism actually work? It all starts with the oldest part of your brain, the reptilian brain. This primal part of our brain is responsible for survival. It doesn't care about politics or truth. It only cares about safety. When it senses danger, whether real or imagined, it hijacks your entire body and redirects your thoughts toward escape, protection, or aggression. So when a leader wants control, they activate this part of your brain, not through debate, but through panic. Historically, dictators have understood this instinctively. Hitler rose to power by amplifying Germany's fear of economic collapse, of communists, and of Jews. Stalin used purges and show trials to keep the fear of betrayal alive in every household. Even during the Crusades, fear of hell and infidels was used to stir entire nations into war. And it's not just in politics. Religion too has used fear as its foundation. Prophets warned of plagues, punishments, and damnation. They told stories of floods and fire, not just to inspire belief, but to demand obedience. Why? Because fear doesn't require explanation. A man might question a sermon, but he won't question the fire that's coming for his soul. He'll bow, pay, or kill if he believes it will save him. Power structures, whether spiritual or political, don't function without control. And control without violence is possible only through psychological pressure. Fear is the most powerful pressure point in the human experience. It makes us forget our morals, abandon our logic, and surrender our freedom voluntarily. Mass media learned this from the old rulers. News cycles are saturated with danger, war, crime, disease, disaster. Why? Because a fearful population stays tuned in. Fear increases ratings, and more importantly, it keeps people passive. A population that's afraid is too busy surviving to start a revolution. This tactic is ancient, but it's been refined. Modern technology allows fear to be personalized. Social media algorithms feed you fear that's tailor-made for your beliefs. You're scared of climate change. Here's a flood video. You're scared of immigrants. Here's a violent clip. It's not about truth. It's about stimulation. This creates emotional exhaustion, and exhausted people are easy to lead. Leaders then offer solutions to the very fears they planted. More cameras, more security, more laws, less freedom. But if the fear is great enough, people accept it willingly. Even conspiracy theories can be traced to this fear impulse. When people feel powerless, they invent villains. This gives them a sense of control, even if it's an illusion. But that illusion is just another trap. It divides people. It keeps them from uniting against the actual systems that are manipulating them. But not all fear-based leadership is evil. Sometimes it's simply misguided. Some prophets genuinely believed the world was ending. Some kings believed in demons. But intention doesn't change the effect. If people are ruled through fear, their freedom is already lost. So what can be done? Awareness is the first step. You must recognize when you're being manipulated, When fear rises in your gut, ask, who profits from this fear? Who gains power when I panic? Fear is not the enemy, blind fear is. Second, learn how your own biology betrays you. Understand the reptilian brain. Learn how it reacts. Once you can see the pattern, you can break it. You can choose response over reaction. And finally, seek leaders who awaken courage, not panic. True power doesn't need fear. It needs clarity, because the moment you stop reacting to fear, you become ungovernable by lies. The psychology of scapegoating. In times of fear, when people are afraid, they don't look for truth. They look for someone to blame. Scapegoating is one of the oldest survival tactics in human history. When a tribe faced drought or disease, they didn't study the climate. They blamed the outsider, the witch, or the stranger. The mind finds comfort in a target, and fear, left unresolved, demands sacrifice. It starts in the brain. The amygdala, our fear center, doesn't wait for logic. When fear surges, it scans for a source, fast. If no clear danger is visible, the brain creates one. It invents a threat it can see, point to, and punish. This gives the illusion of control. That's all fear wants, to feel in control again. Every major crisis in history has come with a scapegoat. During the Black Plague, it was the Jews. In economic collapses, it's often immigrants. In war, it's the traitors within. In pandemics, it's the unvaccinated, or the vaccinated, depending on who's afraid. This behavior isn't just cruel, it's deeply wired. In ancient tribes, unity meant survival. Anything that caused division or didn't fit the norm was seen as dangerous. Scapegoating created unity by uniting people against a common enemy, even if that enemy was innocent. Fear makes the brain tribal. It turns us versus them into a survival game. And in that game, morality is the first casualty. Leaders exploit this. They don't need real enemies. They just need someone to frame as the problem. It could be a race, a religion, a political party, a scientist, or a journalist. It doesn't matter. What matters is the story. The enemy is causing your pain. And if we get rid of them, peace will return. But this never brings peace. It only escalates fear. Scapegoating is not just about politics. It happens in families, workplaces, and schools. A failing business blames one department. A dysfunctional family blames one child. A society in decline blames one group. Why? Because systemic problems are overwhelming. It's easier to blame a face than to confront a broken system. Social media magnifies this pattern. The internet gives everyone a megaphone and a target. Outrage becomes a form of tribal bonding. Call someone out, cancel them, expose them, and you're praised. Not for being right, but for joining the right side. But here's the truth. Scapegoating never solves the root problem. It only masks it. Fear doesn't go away. It just mutates. Today you blame one group. Tomorrow it's another. The fear never ends because the real issue was never addressed. Historically, some societies have recognized this cycle. Ancient cultures often used ritual scapegoats, symbolic sacrifices to purge fear from the tribe. A goat, a sinner, or a criminal was sent into the desert. This was a psychological trick, not a solution, but it reveals a truth. People need closure, and closure requires more than blame. It requires healing. If we want to break this cycle, we must do the opposite of what fear tells us. Instead of blaming, we must investigate. Instead of isolating, we must include. Instead of attacking, we must ask deeper questions. Because the moment we look for understanding over accusation, we break the ancient spell of scapegoating. We reclaim our power from fear. Why your brain can't tell the difference between a tiger and a tweet. Your ancestors ran from tigers. You panic from texts. But to your brain, it's all the same thing. The human brain evolved over millions of years to survive in the wild. It was trained to scan for danger constantly. Rustling in the bushes could be a predator. A strange smell might be poison. An angry face probably means a fight. This hypervigilance was necessary. But here's the problem. Your brain hasn't changed much, even though your world has. The same neural circuits that once helped your ancestors survive a lion attack now react to a critical email, a political post, or a rude comment online. The amygdala doesn't know the difference. All it sees is threat, and it sends your body into survival mode. Heart rate spikes, breathing quickens, muscles tense. You're ready to run or fight, but there's nothing to run from and no one to punch. So the energy gets trapped. Anxiety builds. Cortisol floods the bloodstream. Over time, this wears you down. You're not just reacting to tweets. You're biologically living in a jungle of digital tigers. This is why fear is so easily triggered today. The brain evolved for short bursts of fear, followed by calm. But now, fear is constant. Alerts, notifications, breaking news. The mind is always scanning, and the line between real threat and perceived threat is gone. What makes this worse is social comparison. When you see others succeed online, your brain perceives it as status loss. In tribal times, status meant survival. Low status meant you were the next to be left behind. So even a filtered photo can trigger primal fear. Then comes the fear of exclusion. A post with no likes, a message left unread. To the brain, this is social death. It remembers the time when being excluded meant starvation. Your nervous system is being hijacked by things that didn't exist 50 years ago. This is why many people today feel exhausted without knowing why. It's not just stress. It's constant fear signals that never get resolved. The body is prepared for battle, but the battle never comes, and this affects more than just mental health. Chronic fear impacts memory, decision-making, and even digestion. It makes you reactive, impulsive, and stuck in a loop of survival behaviors. It's no accident that modern society is shaped this way. Attention is a product. Fear keeps you engaged. Fear is the currency of the internet, and every app is designed to keep you hooked by triggering your ancient alarms. But knowledge is power. When you realize your brain can't tell the difference between a tiger and a tweet, you can start taking back control. Step 1. Pause. Breathe. Interrupt the cycle. Step 2. Question the threat. Is it real? Or is it just stimulation? Step 3. Train your brain for calm. Meditation, nature, silence. These aren't luxuries. They're biological repairs. And most importantly, don't blame yourself. You're not broken. You're ancient. Your brain is doing its job, just in the wrong environment. So build a new one. One that feeds your courage, not your panic. One that reminds your body, you are safe. The tiger is gone. Only then can your mind return to its true power. Not survival, but awareness. Escaping the reptilian loop. Awareness as resistance. They don't need chains to control you. Just fear, repeated often enough, until you become your own jailer. The human brain is a miracle of evolution, but hidden deep inside, it is something ancient. A primal structure that doesn't think, reason, or reflect. It simply reacts. This is the reptilian brain, the oldest part of our neural architecture, responsible for survival instincts. Fight, flight, freeze, and feed. It's not evil, it's not conscious, but it's easily hijacked. And that's the real danger. Because those who understand how it works can exploit it to manipulate the masses without them even realizing it. To escape the reptilian loop, we must first understand what it is. The reptilian brain is like an emergency alarm system. Its job is to keep you alive by scanning for threats. But unlike your higher brain, it doesn't differentiate between actual danger and perceived danger. If you hear a loud bang, feel excluded from a group, or watch a scary news story, your reptilian brain kicks in. Cortisol rises, logic drops. You become reactive, not reflective. Governments, media, corporations, and power structures have long known this. If you can activate people's reptilian brains, keep them in a state of low-grade fear or anxiety, you can control them without needing physical force. That's why the news often leads with violence, disasters, or social division. That's why social media algorithms favor outrage and panic. It's all about triggering that primal alarm system. Once your reptilian brain is active, your neocortex, the thinking part of your brain, goes offline. And in that fog, people become easier to manipulate, easier to divide, easier to sell to, easier to control. So how do we resist this ancient trap? Awareness is the first act of resistance. Most people are being pulled by emotional strings they don't even know exist. They feel fear but don't ask why. They feel anxiety but don't trace its source. But if you can notice when fear is being triggered, if you can name it, you weaken its power over you. It's like turning on the lights in a haunted house. The shadows lose their grip. This is not just about turning off the news or avoiding social media. It's about recognizing when your body is in a reactive state and choosing not to feed it. It means asking, is this fear mine, or was it planted? Is this reaction helping me, or is it keeping me small? Breathing deeply is a simple but powerful tool. When you slow your breath, your body receives a signal that you are safe. This shifts your nervous system from fight or flight to rest and digest. In that state, the higher brain comes back online. You can think clearly. You can reflect. You can choose. Awareness also means observing your habits. When you constantly check your phone for updates, doom scroll, or engage in outrage online, you are feeding the reptilian loop. Every click, every scroll, every share of panic reinforces that neural pathway. But when you pause, breathe, and choose not to react, you're rewiring your brain. Escaping the loop doesn't mean becoming passive. It means becoming strategic. When you're not consumed by fear, you can respond with clarity. You can ask deeper questions. You can connect with others instead of dividing. You can imagine new possibilities instead of being trapped in old survival stories. There's also a collective layer to this. Entire societies can be trapped in reptilian loops. When people are scared, they demand control. They accept surveillance. They turn on each other. Fear breeds tribalism, and tribalism fuels more fear. It becomes a cycle. But if enough individuals wake up, if enough people choose awareness over reaction, the cycle can break. That's why awareness is not a luxury, it's resistance. We don't escape the reptilian brain by fighting it. We transcend it. We notice it. We thank it for trying to protect us. And then we choose from a higher place. This is what makes us truly human. Not just our ability to survive, but our ability to evolve, reflect, and choose love over fear. Every time you step out of fear, you unplug from the control grid. Every time you choose presence, you reclaim your mind. And that, quiet, invisible, internal, is the beginning of freedom.